In this video, let's talk about event handling. Events are a fundamental part of Windows programming because really what we're doing is we're writing a program that responds to the user's events. And we're going to do just a very simple example here, and I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can easily manipulate events inside the Visual Studio environment in C#. So the first thing I've done, I have a very simple program open here called Event Basics. And let me just show you how I did that. And I'll close this and then we'll come back in just a second. So I just went to Start and I kicked off Visual Studio 2008. If you don't see it, go to All Programs, Visual Studio 2008, Visual Studio 2008. And I just clicked on Create Project and I just typed right here, Event Basics. Made sure I was choosing a Windows Form app and clicked OK. And that opened up this program right here just like you see it. Now let's do just a very simple basic event handler type thing in the Windows operating system, and you do this without even thinking about it. Let's open the toolbox and I'm going to look. Yours probably opens like this maybe, if not good, but even if just we're going to pull a tool out of the common controls section called button. So what I'm going to do is double click on button and it drops one on my form in the upper left hand corner, and I will just drag it to the middle. It just feels better there. Now notice this button has some properties. It has a text and it says button 1. It has a name, button 1, but it also has events. Now the default event for this button is the click event. And if I double click on the button, it takes me to the code and you can see private void button 1 click. And this is telling it that whenever somebody clicks on this button in an application to run whatever code is in this section right here or inside this method. And so if I do messagebox.show and I put in here clicked and then close it out with my semicolon, you know what's going to happen. When I run this and then I click on that button, there's my message box clicked. Pretty straightforward, right? Now that's basic event handling, but what happens if I want to do something besides a click event? Let's say I want something to happen just when my mouse moves over the button. Well, as it turns out that there's obviously a lot more events than just the ones that you get when you double click on these items. Let me show you something here. If I double click on the form, notice it takes me to a Form 1 load event. And this is something that happens when the form loads into memory. So very easy to get to the default event on these things, but let's talk about getting to other events. I'm going to click on the button itself and you'll notice over here in the properties window. Now if you can't see this, just go to view, come down to properties window and it'll pop this up. Notice on the toolbar here there is a little lightning bolt looking drawing, and if I click on that you will see events. Those are the events for this button that I can code against. Notice the click event has the button 1 click method out there, and if I click the drop down you can see that I can do other methods as well. We'll get to that later. But for now, what if I wanted to deal with one of these other methods? Notice, let's say mouse hover. Notice, actually let's do mouse enter. And notice if when I click on this, it shows me down here what's going to happen. Notice this event occurs or is fired when the mouse enters the visible part of the control. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make our own event. And here's how to do that. Very easy. We're going to create the mark mouse event, and I just type it in right here. And I can click anywhere else. And then you'll notice it created the mark mouse event. And I'm going to do messagebox.show, and I will just put mouse, and that'll let us know that the mouse has entered that. And so when I run this, you will notice that just by mousing in, I got the mouse. Now this is kind of some really dumb programming because now I can never get that to go away to get my click event. But just by moving my mouse over this is causing that to fire. And notice if I close this out, this is now wired to that event. Now if I decide that that's really a bad idea and I don't want to do it, I can simply come out here, delete this, and then go back into my code, and you'll see this is still there, but it's not going to do anything, and I can delete it from here. Now, that's basic events. And as you notice, you need to click on all of your various objects in your application, and then come over here and click on this Events button and just look and see what you can do. There's a lot of things that can happen here, and you can code against all these things. So there's a lot of power here. So that's basic event handling in the C# world using Visual Studio 2008. And we'll dig a little deeper as we go through here.